Welcome back to another episode of Mechannibal Garage. On this episode, I'm going to be putting the PW80 back together using the old and new parts that I have, and hopefully by the end of this episode we have a mostly complete, maybe running pit bike. So yeah, let's get started. As you can tell, there's a lot more parts here than I had when I bought the pit bike. I've been collecting up parts, and somebody was parting out a PW80 and I found a majority of the parts I needed. I have the rear brake here, but it's missing the springs and shoes. So I'll order those. Those are serviceable parts, so that's not a big deal. I have the front one, which does have the brake components. And so far I've cleaned up everything and sanded everything. So like this had a lot of, I guess the term is glazing, where it had a lot of metal embedded into the pad itself. So I went ahead and sanded that down and then cleaned everything up. I have the forks partially disassembled and I have them soaking, like the springs soaking in brake clean. And I'm going to dump that out in a second. But I couldn't help but notice this when I took it apart. This had a boot on here so you couldn't see it. But that is the state of one of the fork tubes. And it's got a little crack there and it continues down here a little bit. I'm probably going to try to tap this back out and get it at least a little bit more rounded. Since this is aluminum, it should be pretty malleable. So there's that. I got a decent amount of the wiring. I got the CDI, an old coil which I'm not going to use, an on off switch which I already had, but there's another one. I have the whole exhaust. I have the footrests, which is this unit. I have most of the brakes. I already had this in stock, but I have a uni filter for the carb. And then I have the throttles and grips. I have the throttle cable. I'm going to order a rebuild kit for the front shocks, front forks that is, and then oil so that I can service them properly. Okay, so right now I have the forks soaking. The top caps are still on, so I've just literally filled it up with brake fluid and then I've been letting it soak. Because when I took the lower half of the fork off, one fork had oil in it, but the other one just had water in it. And the one that had water in it was the one that was bent, so I guess that boot's not sealing anymore. But I'm gonna dump this out real quick and we'll see what all comes out. So you can kind of tell which one's which. The one closest to the camera is the one that had broken lower end on it because there's a lot more contamination in there. So now I'm just going to take the top cap off and then spray fluid down through it, hopefully to try to get all the remaining sediment out of there. You can see that. You know what, I think I'm probably just going to take the spring out of here, just on this closer side because it's just too grungy down there. Probably be easier to just pull everything apart. There we go. Okay, let's see how nasty this thing looks. Not horrible. I'm gonna scotch spray it all just to get it all cleaned up. So you can see this is like the rust that's on here is really just light surface rust, which tells me that the seal that was on the lower half hadn't been broken that long, which is good for me. So I'm just gonna scotch spray this, throw it back together, and then order oil and new seals and stuff. And I may see if there's spacers, because I've heard, you know, as an adult riding a child's pit bike, the front shocks and rear shock will bottom out sooner because, you know, you're fatter than a child is. Yeah, so I got it pretty much clean. Didn't get to the inside of the spring, but I'm not really worried about that. So now I'm going to move on to doing the fork rebuild. I've got an oil, new seals, 8 new dust caps since one was ripped, new O-rings for the end caps. And to start, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this bent back a little bit into shape, or at least just enough to get that seal out. It's coming back a little bit, but I don't know if I can get it to come any further. Let's see if I can squeeze it some more. I don't think so. Well, in any case, I'll see if I can get this seal and retaining clip out. There we go. I'm going to see if I can heat this up to get it to be more malleable. This is just aluminum, so it's coming, but it's cracked, so it's better. Okay, so I created this crack by bending it, but there's this one down along here, and there's another little one over here and another little one over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and sand, like get sandpaper anywhere I can, put a decent coat of JB Weld in here just to make sure this is watertight. I can make this work, so I'm not gonna spend the money to go the replacement route. Okay, so I've got it mostly circular. Since I have this relief cut here now, should be yeah, pretty straightforward. So I'm just gonna put a little oil on it and tap it into place, or get the Dremel. The problem here is this lip is not cracked, so I can't spread it like I did up here. So either try to crack it to spread it, or just grind down the back to make clearance for the seal so I don't keep damaging the seal trying to get it in there. Okay, that's going. So we're good now, and we're below the little groove that the clip sits in, so let's go ahead and put that in. So now just let it cure and it'll be good to go. O-ring part number for the top caps is that, and that's the factory part. And then if you want the fork seals, that's it. You use 15 weight fork oil, and then each fork gets 2.16 ounces. So we have our only used for measuring, only, not drinking out of glass. Okay, those are done. Okay, so now I'm going to put the lower ends of the forks back on the frame and then fill them up with oil. Okay. Just trying to think ahead for if this decides to leak. These are in contact with a liquid and they do hold a little bit of pressure, so let's go ahead and put a little thread sealer on there. So everything should seal now. So I'm just going to go ahead and measure out the 2.16 ounces per shock. Pour slowly. Alright, so now that we got the frame ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and get the wiring squared away so that we can test this engine once everything's installed. And I have the wiring diagram now, so it's just a matter of removing all the old protective coverings, inspect all the wires, make new connections, and check all the old connections, and then we'll be ready to throw it on the frame. Now I'm going to go ahead and start moving on to doing the exhaust wrap, and I think I'm only going to go from maybe like here to here. First I'm just going to wrap it around, cut it, and then actually secure it. The reason I'm doing this is because I don't intend to buy and install the little heat shields, the little factory ones, because one, I think they're ugly, and two, it's just more money. I'd rather do this. So it's about there. I can cut this, give it a little bit extra. This is kind of tricky, trying to like hold the material tight, that is, and also tighten the clamp. Well, there's a couple extra clicks, so that'll work. Yeah, I think that's good. Having the little nut that the heat shield bolts to right there doesn't really help, but whatever. Good enough. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay. It is literally touching the head though, so maybe run it without the pre-filter. That is still like barely touching the head. And I didn't buy an angled one, so I'm not really sure what I want to do. I definitely want to run this filter versus the little snorkel thing in stock filter, just because. And I mean, there's nothing to say I can't like cut this snorkel and mount it, like the little filter up here. If I mount this, like, that's gonna look stupid. I don't know. If I cut it like right there, this is gonna sit like that, which is also pretty dumb. Not really sure what I'm going to do with this yet. We will figure it out when we get this mounted. I also noticed with the wiring here that I've got 5 wires there and 1 here. And I'm looking for a black and red. So this I think would tell me this is ground, and this should be the signal wire. And then the rest I don't know. So this is, you know, this is the Chinese, who knows what it's actually for stator. But I'm going to take this cover back off, look at where these black and red go, and then go from there. So just look at it real quick. If I remember it, blue is actually ground, and black and red does look like a signal wire. Yeah, the actual black wire is something else. So blue is the actual ground, and then black and red are signal. So those are the 2 we should actually use, and the rest are not usable. All right, it's now time to get going on putting this thing back together and getting it to be, you know, a running bike again. I'm not really sure how this thing, I guess I'm going to take the lower engine bolt back out so I can mount the little foot thing. So there's that, a little spring back on. Here's a little pro tip. If you want to try to like stretch a spring further without using like pliers, put a piece of rope through it. There we go. That's it. I guess we can just move on to do the oil tank next, I guess. I'm just connect the hose back to the oil pump. Pretty straightforward. Oh, I see. I gotta take the cover back off for the oil pump, because there's a little like waterproof grommet thing that needs to get put back in place. Piece of shit. You are totally a piece of shit. Got the oil line installed, got the line out installed. There's that. Exhaust is done. So I guess I'll just move on to the wiring. I just gotta find a place to put the camera so you can actually like see what I'm doing. It's mounted there. So that gets plugged into that. CDI goes next to it, probably where I'm going to put it, so it doesn't matter. There we go. I'm just mounting the ground to the back of the bolt that mounts the CDI, just with an extra nut, and then I'm going to zip tie this up. And then all we have to do, connect CDI to the 2 wires on the stator. And then I have 4 extra wires that I'm not sure what I'm going to do with. So we got the coil mounted right here, CDI mounted right here, ground right here. This is the throttle. Just zip tied it up quickly. And then we have the 2 that go to the stator. One is ground and one is ignition. I'm going to just wire up the stuff, and this thing should run. Goes on. Got this old cover that came with the blaster when I got it. This thing's so faded and ragged. But whatever. What I figured out is This is the wrong throttle grip. This is the wrong throttle cable, but this will not cooperate with this. And I can make this work on this setup, but this cable's not gonna work. So I'm probably gonna see if I can just find a cable first. The little throttle I had here with the little housing on it is not meant for this. It's like a universal one. The throttle is actually supposed to go in here, and then this is supposed to go inside the housing. So that's the whole unit. So this isn't really gonna fit, it doesn't look like, so I'm gonna have to modify it. And then also I figured out this is the right throttle cable. It is supposed to split into two. I think the second one goes to the oil pump, but I'm not sure, so I'm just gonna figure that out off camera. The idea is that this is supposed to go inside here, and it is too large by a lot. So what I'm gonna do, since this throttle thing was really cheap, I'm gonna just take it to a belt sander and just take some material off all the way around, just so that it'll fit inside here. Hopefully that'll work. If it doesn't, then I'll have to just buy a new one of these. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, it should be good. Seems real easy. I'm not going to bother putting on clamps or a filter yet because this is going to be just for testing. I also gave this fork time to cure, and then I've sanded it and filed it. Hopefully this will like hold, and it should hold the seal, should hold pressure, and this shouldn't be an issue again. And also once this dust cap's over, you won't even see it. I do plan to paint these at some point in the future when I decide on a paint scheme for this. I'm thinking black and silver, so these will probably go silver again. To be determined. For now, I'm just going to put this cap back over it, and you won't even know it's ever there. There you go. Factory new. I bought proper gear oil, like wet clutch standard motorcycle oil. So right now this has just trans fluid in it, which is not really adequate, but I plan to only run this for 30 seconds. So the idea is I'm going to temporarily wire it, test it, make sure it works, make sure it has spark, run it with 2-stroke oil, mixed gas, as well as the tank, so that way we have hopefully, as long as this pump is good, which I have no verification it is, as long as that's good, this thing should run and have extra oil, which will be good for braking. Then this trans fluid's coming out, and I'm going to replace it with the synthetic, I think it's 1040 motorcycle wet clutch standard whatever stuff. It's going to go in there. Oh yes, we have fuel. Okay. Shit. Dump fuel everywhere. Don't let that evaporate.
Yeah, you are.
Spark?
Yep, do it again. Yep.
Okay, so it's a fuel thing. Okay, that's good.
Oh, it's not getting fuel?
No, that means I wired it right.
That works.
Oh, I do have a kill switch. I didn't have to yank that off. Okay, well the kill switch works, the throttle doesn't. Okay. So take it to full throttle until it's had like an hour runtime or something.
Exactly.
So like, let me just do full throttle twice. Okay, so today was pretty productive. I figured out a bunch of things that need to be fixed. First of which is when I fired it up, as you could tell, it went wide open throttle right away, which is bad. However, the kill switch worked, so that's good. But that is very not good for engine braking. That's like the opposite of what you want. As a result, I took the carb apart again. Everything looked fine. The throttle slide has a lot of resistance to it, so like even with me pulling on it, there's like a lot of tension to it. It's not moving as it should. And this is just a standard Mikumi 26mm carb. So I think I'm just gonna buy a new, not Chinese, like legit Mikumi replacement. What I also found, which was good, I found it, was that there's no oil coming out of this oil pump. So even though the thing only ran for a second or two, there's no oil in this line at all. So if I had tried to do the break-in, this engine would have probably blown up. So the options are see if there's a rebuild kit for that oil pump, or a way to delete it to run just mixed gas, which I'm not opposed to. I don't mind mixing gas. So I mean, it'd be kind of nice to simplify it. So get rid of the oil pump, get rid of the oil tank, and just run mixed gas. So that's to be figured out in the future. I have two options. I can buy a factory throttle tube, because this one here, it's like a Chinese universal. This, I don't think this is going to work. And it keeps binding up and doesn't fit properly in the factory housing, even with the modification. I have this throttle, thumb throttle, from I guess an older PW80, which is what came with. Yeah, just throw it on the floor, that's fine. But that's the options there. And then I got the wiring. I did it off camera because it's the same as the other wiring, but I got everything loomed, 2 spade connectors in an enclosed loom down to the stator, and then the spare wires I cut at different lengths and then put heat shrink on them, that way they can't touch ever. So that's all I did, is I just cut all 4 wires at different lengths so there's no way they can ground, and then just put a little heat shrink on them and then tucked them in this loom so they're protected and there's no chance of them shorting out each other. That's going to be the end of this episode. It's running a little long and I don't have a whole lot to do left, so it's going to be a matter of just ordering parts and doing one more episode, and then we'll be done. So I'm really excited to get this thing done and get it running. So this one's getting really, really close. Next episode will be probably the last episode. So yeah, that'll be it. So thanks for watching and stay tuned.